From Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. The M2 mining probe drilled deeper into the rock, clawing toward the cortosis vein. Darth Tenebrous tapped furiously on the controls. "The controls have failed," Tenebrous snapped. "The drill will breach the gas pocket." His hands tightened into fists. "We must leave. Now." Plagueis hesitated. "We are Sith. We can contain—" "No arguments!" Tenebrous barked, his voice cracking with an edge of panic. "We must reach the ship before the explosion." Plagueis followed as his master turned and began to stride quickly toward the ship. The ground trembled faintly beneath their feet. The faint hiss of gas filled the air behind them. Tenebrous moved faster, his normally precise demeanor faltering. For the first time, Plagueis saw fear in his master's movements, an unnatural, almost desperate urgency. Plagueis felt the ground rumble. A thunderous explosion shook the entire cavern. The shockwave hurled them forward, and the ceiling groaned as massive chunks of rock began to fall. The Sith sprinted out of the tunnel just as the first boulders smashed into the ground behind them. The ridgeline where their ship rested was already peppered with falling debris, and Plagueis raised his hands, summoning the Force to halt the collapse. He gritted his teeth as the weight of the falling rock pressed against his power. "Master!" he shouted. "The ship will be destroyed!" Tenebrous stopped, his eyes narrowing as he extended his arms. The Force rippled outward from Tenebrous's fingertips, and the cascade slowed. A sudden realization came to Plagueis. His master's fear wasn't for the ship or the collapse. It was for himself. Tenebrous had foreseen his own death. Plagueis knew this was his chance to ascend, as the Rule of Two demanded. "Master," Plagueis said, his tone softening as if in encouragement. But his hands moved subtly, shifting the balance of the rocks. Tenebrous's gaze darted back to the falling debris, his voice sharp. "Hold it steady, apprentice!" Plagueis didn't respond. Instead, he focused on destabilizing the ceiling above his master. The rocks trembled, then shifted, and the ceiling gave way. Tenebrous disappeared beneath the massive boulders before he realized what had happened. The ship, too, was crushed. When the dust settled, Plagueis approached the rubble. A faint voice emerged, weak and rasping. "It was you, apprentice?" "Yes," Plagueis said with a hint of pleasure in his voice. "You did not think I had the strength, but here you lay." Tenebrous coughed as he said, "Then, for the last time, I call you apprentice. You've fulfilled your role, but without a ship, you've endangered the Sith. The future." Plagueis crouched beside the rubble. "You are wrong, Master. The future begins with me." He raised his hand and snapped Tenebrous's neck. The Bith's body stilled. As Tenebrous's neurons and midi-chlorians perished, Plagueis observed the microscopic changes in vivid detail. Unbeknownst to Plagueis, Tenebrous's consciousness had already begun its migration. His altered midi-chlorians, maxi-chlorians, slipped into Plagueis's cells like a virus. Tenebrous's essence hid within, infecting his apprentice at the most fundamental level. Inside Plagueis, Tenebrous's thoughts formed. He marveled at the success of his plan, his consciousness now sustained within the midi-chlorians of another. With time, he would complete his ultimate goal, transferring his essence into the prophesied Chosen One and claiming a body of unparalleled power. Yet, as Tenebrous explored Plagueis's foresight, horror struck him. A smear of darkness, the moment of Plagueis's death at the hands of another apprentice. His plan would fail. The Sith line would falter. Panic consumed Tenebrous. He tried to escape Plagueis's body, but he was trapped. Time warped. and he realized his foresight had twisted inward, forcing him to relive his death in an endless loop. Plagueis stood, unaware of his master's eternal torment. The galaxy was his now, or so he believed.